When it comes to romantic comedies, it's not often that you come across a tale that perfectly intertwines love, family, and the trials of single parenthood, all set against the picturesque backdrop of Italy. That's exactly what The Groomsmen, Last Dance delivers, serving as the final chapter in the beloved Hallmark plus Groomsmen Trilogy. This film brings to life Tyler Hynes' character, Jackson, a devoted single father who relocates to Italy to be closer to his daughter, Betty. Although he initially tries to fend off the allure of local beauty Gabriella to focus on parenting, an awakening occurs when Betty points out how his single-mindedness is detrimental to both their happiness. Fans of the earlier films will undoubtedly feel a sense of bittersweet nostalgia, knowing this is the concluding installment. The Groomsmen, Last Dance, stream it or skip it. Opening scene, the journey revisits the very wedding that sparked this entire series. The nuptials of Danny's sister, Hannah. This is where Pete, played by B.J. Britt, first crossed paths with Chelsea, portrayed by Heather Hemmons, tying back to the storyline of the first movie. Additionally, it's the scene where Danny initially discovers that his friend and manager Zach is involved with a guy named Nolan, which served as the crux of the second movie. It's in this familiar setting that Jackson learns of his daughter Betty's impending move to Italy with her mother. The core story. In this third and final film, The Groomsmen, Last Dance, we gain deeper insights into Jackson's character. While we already know he's an influencer agent and a caring father, the narrative fleshes him out further. Following Danny's wedding in Greece, Betty and Trisha, her mother, head off to Italy, which strikes a chord of despair for Jackson. However, he maintains an amicable co-parenting relationship with Trisha, and when she has to take a work trip for a month, it presents Jackson with an ideal chance to enjoy some father-daughter bonding time on the sunny Italian coast. Upon arriving in his daughter's new town, Jackson finds himself in a close encounter with a striking local named Gabriella, who promptly reprimands him for his inattentiveness as he drives and chats on his phone. It's a classic rom-com scenario, transforming them from instant adversaries into unlikely companions as they begin to see more of each other. Remarkably, Gabriella's role extends beyond just being a beautiful stranger. She's also a landlord to Betty and Trisha and co-runs a family restaurant. Hence, she becomes an unavoidable presence in Jackson's life. In an effort to distract himself while respecting his daughter's need for space from her overly protective dad, Jackson volunteers to assist Gabriella with her restaurant's website and branding, part of his professional expertise. Their relationship starts to blossom when Gabriella decides to prepare a meal for him and Betty, much to Betty's delight, as she secretly orchestrates their potential romance. However, sensing the emotional stakes rising, Jackson panics and prematurely ends their budding relationship. The local masquerade festival becomes a pivotal moment when Jackson participates in a dance with an anonymous partner, revealing Gabriella behind a mask, prompting him to realize that feeling for someone again is not only acceptable, but also necessary. Despite his internal conflicts about jumping into romance, Jackson's fears crystallize when Betty confronts him. She points out that his overprotectiveness is stifling her growth, making her feel more like a child rather than a teenager with her own friends. In a moment of clarity, Jackson tries to reassure her about his intentions, leading to her poignant observation that he's not only protective of her, but also of his own heart. In a turning point of the film, Jackson offers to take Gabriella to her father's vineyard, where she hopes to facilitate a business merger between her parents, who are now estranged. Their car troubles result in an overnight stay with Gabriella's coarse father, allowing Jackson and him to bond over their protected instincts as loving dads navigating the fallout of broken marriages. Through these interactions, Jackson realizes that being emotionally guarded won't just affect his love life. It risks turning him into a distant, hard-hearted parent as well. As the mystery bride, who has subtly guided us through the trilogy with her narratives, finally unveils herself, we circle back to her refuge in an Irish pub where her own groom makes an appearance. The shocking twist reveals that the bride is actually Betty, preparing to marry Milo, Danny's nephew, who once clumsily tried to win her affection at Hannah's wedding. Betty's initial retreat from the altar stems from the belief that their love lacks the grandeur of the love stories surrounding the groomsmen. Yet Milo counters her fears by revealing a nostalgic piece of their past, an arcade game where he was the high scorer, affectionately representing himself with the initials MLB for Milo Loves Betty. This revelation assures Betty that their love story is indeed special in its own unique way. Surrounded by their friends and family, they share vows at the wedding, completing the arc of love that this series has beautifully detailed. Comparative shows. The entire Groomsmen series brings to mind the charm of 4 weddings and a funeral, but specifically, this film evokes memories of Hallmark's delightful 2 Scoops of Italy, where an American falls in love with a gelato maker during her travels to Italy. Conclusion. Personally, I found the Groomsmen Last Dance to be utterly enchanting. Anticipation for this final installment surged within me, largely fueled by a soft spot I have for the character Jackson and his compelling love story. Naturally, the mystery bride's fate added an additional layer of intrigue, and while I had an inkling it could be Betty, witnessing her journey unfold was undeniably satisfying. Though some parts of Jackson and Gabriella's romance mirrored those from previous films, I did find myself a tad disappointed that we didn't get a grand wedding scene to cap off their story. However, the strength of the film lies in the emotional connection between Jackson and Betty, portraying their father-daughter bond with genuine warmth. When both of them shared a toast, I found myself surprisingly misty-eyed at their heartfelt exchange. If I were to voice a minor complaint, it would be about the portrayal of young Betty, played by Raphael, and her older version, now known as Elizabeth, Lily Dodsworth Evans. The characteristics of young Betty, marked by her mischievous and carefree spirit, seem to contrast sharply with Elizabeth's composed and proper demeanor. While this distinction cleverly prevents hints about her identity early on, I wished Elizabeth had a touch more sparkle to match her integral role in the narrative. Ultimately, these concerns are minor, and Last Dance does a commendable job of resolving the story arcs for all characters, giving them the gratifying conclusions they deserve. What more could anyone wish? Final scene. The film wraps up on a joyous note with everyone dancing at Betty and Milo's wedding, and the infectious melody of Shake Your Groove Thing sets the stage for a nostalgic moment. Betty's request for this song enables Jackson, Pete, and Danny to perform their signature choreographed dance, one they developed during their childhood days at camp. The lively scene captivates the entire audience, proving that love, friendship, and shared memories truly are the fabric of our greatest stories. Standout performances. Raphael shines in her role as young Betty, infusing the character with a delightful charm. She adeptly conveys the frustrations of being a teenager without resorting to the overplayed stereotype of a whiny teen, while seamlessly fitting into the ensemble of the groomsmen. Notable lines. In a touching moment, Betty reminisces, "Remember all those times you walked me to school in Italy?" As Jackson walks her down the aisle on her wedding day, to which he hesitantly replies, "Those were just practice runs." Recommendation. The Groomsmen Last Dance successfully concludes the narrative threads that began in the previous 2 films, making for a fulfilling viewing experience from start to finish. If you're in the mood for love, laughter, and heartwarming moments, do yourself a favor and binge-watch the entire trilogy. I wholeheartedly recommend streaming it.